What's up, beautiful people? It's your boy Judeo, and I'm back again with a new video. Today we're going to be checking out how porn is destroying society, and this is Shapiro with Candace Owens. Candace Owens. I don't know why I always want to say Owen. I'm excited for this one. Let's hear what they have to say about pornography. A lot of people have spoken about pornography. They said it destroys the brain, makes you forget, it ruins your eyesight, a lot of things. So let's see what points they're going to be using on this video. Without wasting your time, let's get to it.
She requires no introduction. Of course, she's a New York Times best-selling author, founder of Blexit. She's host of the brand new show, Candace Owens, named after her, obviously, on Daily Wire Plus. First of all, Candace, congratulations on the show. It's soaring up the charts.
I'm very excited about it. It feels like the right move to go 5 days a week.
Well, I mean, obviously, the audience agrees, given the numbers that we've been seeing. So let's talk about some of the stuff that you've been talking about on the show. So you did an episode yesterday about the normalization of pornography in the culture. It's the stuff that you can do better than pretty much anyone else. Because number one, if I talk about the normalization of pornography in the culture, I'm a sexist. If you talk about the normalization of pornography of the culture, then you're a feminist. So it's good. You can say these things. So what exactly were you talking about on the show yesterday?
Well, I will say, Ben, I did take a page out of your book and I dropped a couple of bleeps because it was just way too expletive. I went bleep, bleep, bleep. But I was just sort of talking about where we're headed towards, and it was a conversation that I was having with my husband about pornography. My husband completely abstains from social media, and if you ask him, he just casually says, because it's all pornography. And he's talking about Instagram, he's talking about Facebook, he's talking about opening up a page and looking at the Daily Mail. But we've become...
That's an extreme way to put it. All pornography, everything. TikTok, Instagram, everything.
So desensitized to it. So when I'm on Instagram, I don't even pay attention to the fact that actually, there's just nothing but butts and people's tits on the internet at all times. But we've become increasingly as a culture saying that this is okay. And so I wanted to have that discussion about pornography. I was listening to a Catholic podcast and they were talking about how even the seeds that are being planted on porn websites, which I did visit yesterday, are all incestuous. And of course, it brought me to the conversation about Kim Kardashian, who has been in the news recently for something which is so abhorrent, if true, and it looks like it is true, that she actually orchestrated her own sex tape. Her mother sat there and watched the sex tapes, and it was a complete PR move. And they released the tape that they thought was the best out of 3 that they had her shoot, according to the man in the film, Ray J.
Ray J, yeah. And I think I watched part of the clip on Facebook. I believe Facebook Reel.
That's an unbelievable story. And of course, it gets completely ignored by the mainstream media for being disgusting. Instead, if it's paid attention to at all, it's sort of in the subculture of the internet, because you're not allowed to report that Kim Kardashian has obviously exploited her body for money. I mean, the way that she became famous was these sex tapes. Now it turns out, according to Ray J, that Mommy Kardashian was actually watching the tapes and helping to select which one she apparently looked best in. And it's not as though Kim Kardashian has cooled it recently. I mean, she recently appeared on the cover of Interview magazine wearing nothing on her bottom. I mean, this sort of stuff, you're right, has been completely normalized throughout the culture. This is a long process. I wrote a book in, I think, 2004 called Porn Generation about how pornography was being absolutely mainstreamed, how people who had been porn stars are now being made into mainstream cultural figures. Now they're being made into mainstream cultural political figures. But it takes people like you to say this sort of stuff.
Right, and I think it's really important, and what I always want to do with my show is further those cultural conversations, because I think in the past, conservatives have sort of looked at culture and said, well, it's not important, let's have a more intellectual discussion. But as you know, your late mentor, Andrew Breitbart, said politics is downstream from culture. So a lot of times we're looking around and we're saying, how are we even having this debate about whether or not children have the autonomy over their bodies, and whether or not, which we are literally having a debate about right now, pedophilia is okay, right? People are saying, oh, well, children can pick their gender, children can...
This is a serious thing. One time I'm not going to mention the country, but the Senate in the country were debating if it's okay for adult men, not just like youth men, that would be bad, but adult men, like old men, if it's okay for old men to marry 13-year-old girls. That was a debate in a country Senate. Imagine that.
Be sexual beings. Well, these conversations are happening because of what's going on in the culture. And so it's important that we attack that and that we call it wrong and that we call it, in the case of Kim Kardashian, satanic. Because I just became a mother to a daughter. You have daughters. I mean, could you even imagine the concept of quite literally selling your daughter's body for fame? When they were already a wealthy family. They had everything that they ever needed to be happy and to be successful, and yet it wasn't enough because fame was too tempting. I mean, it's really sickening stuff.
The mainstreaming of pornography really is an amazing story because the fact is that back in the 70s, the feminist movement said pornography is exploitative because it obviously is. It is pandering to the worst in men. It is pandering to male desires. It is causing women to have to exploit their bodies in order to get attention. This is all bad. And then the feminist movement shifted in the 80s and 90s, and suddenly pornography became empowering. In fact, you'll have Hillary Clinton going around the country and doing TV series on gutsy women. And the people that she's interviewing very often are people who are exploiting their bodies, obviously, for fame and fortune. It's an amazing, amazing shift. And meanwhile, you have an entire, I would say it was subpopulation, but I would imagine now it's probably approaching a majority of the male population of the United States that, if not addicted to pornography, uses pornography regularly. And has this made men stronger? Has this made marriages stronger? And then we look around and the media are decrying toxic masculinity. It's like, well, you guys really created the forces that unleashed a lot of this.
Right, and it's funny, you ask those questions and they're very important to answer. Has it made men stronger? Has it made families stronger? Well, that was the point, right? The feminist movement has nothing to do with women. It has nothing to do with trying to help women at all. They just like to still use the word feminism so that you can't attack it, right? Or else you're a sexist and you hate women. But in reality, it's actually harming women and it's harming families. And the reason for that is because it helps the government. And at the end of the day, in order for a government to grow in the capacity that it wants to grow and to be omnipotent in our lives, it needs to make sure that it is routinely denigrating the idea of the nuclear family unit, which stands in the way of a government and omnipotence. And so that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're talking about on the show. Pay attention to the various ways that they are attacking the family. It's through pornography. When I was in school, and this is a really horrible thing now that I'm looking at it in the retrospect, in health class, we learned that partaking in pornography, as a observer of pornography, watching porn, was a healthy thing. I learned about this in health class.
Articles like that on Google. I've seen articles like that where it says it's healthy to do this. For men, there are articles that says it reduces prostate cancer. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's an article like that on Google. You guys can go check it out if you want to see.
Good thing for your relationship for you to sit in a room, do something shameful, and observe other people having sex on the internet. I learned that. Think about what that really says about the state of things in school. Now that I'm an adult, I want to make sure that I'm having these conversations for young people to know that that's actually not correct. What you're learning in the public school system is not correct. And what they're trying to do is turn you into basically a government slave, because your families will be ruined and you will have nothing, in my opinion. You'll look around and you'll say, my life has nothing of real substance and of real value. And it's because I believed these far left ideologies.
We'll get some more with Candace in just 1 second. First, let's talk about the t-shirts that you wear. So when I go out, I only wear Cuts. Cuts makes the best t-shirts on the planet. Cuts Clothing. They've spent years perfecting men's t-shirts, taking look good.
Actually, they make good t-shirts. I'm not a part of this ad. I'm going to skip it, but they make good t-shirts. So let's go.
For yourself, why Cuts is one of the fastest growing men's brands at CUTS Clothing. She's also generating an enormous amount of content in upcoming weeks. She's back from having her beautiful new baby. One of those pieces of content is going to be an upcoming appearance on Dr. Phil. And our previous Daily Wire hosts have done a pretty good job on Dr. Phil. Matt Walsh obviously did a good job with the transgender conversation on Dr. Phil. So have they told you what exactly you're going to be talking about on Dr. Phil yet?
Oh, I shot it actually just yesterday.
Oh, okay, how did that go?
So it was... Yeah, so this is the exclusive, but it was wonderful, and I'm very excited for it to come out. It was just my perfect environment. I was sitting across from two doctors, doctors in the liberal arts. You hold a PhD in something that is completely meaningless. And of course, they were holding the position that racism against white people is not actually racism. And of course, they were white. And I was holding the position that water is wet.
That is the most beautiful thing, is when they put you across from a person who is just supporting a position that is utterly insupportable. So that is just such a softball down the middle of the plate for you there, Candace. So I can't wait to see the clips from that. That's going to air in the next few weeks. I'm sure that is going to be a documentary that is going to be coming out very shortly, called The Greatest Lie Ever Told, about the exploitation of George Floyd's death by Black Lives Matter and the mainstream media. Tell us a little bit, give us a sneak preview of what the documentary is going to be.
For sure. So first, I just want to answer a lot of questions that we've been getting about why it was so delayed. In the last hour, we shot this documentary, and literally within the week that we were going to premiere it, Black Lives Matter dropped their tax documents for the first time ever. And it just was not something that we could have possibly left out of the documentary. At the same time, I was running up against the clock. Obviously, I was 9 months pregnant. And so we thought to ourselves, let's just press pause and do this thing the right way, go through all the tax documents and include it. And I am so, so glad that we did. We went down this road, and it was, my project. I came to the Daily Wire and said, I really want to do this because I was castigated for being really kind of the first Black voice that spoke up against the narrative that George Floyd was some hero. It just wasn't allowed. You had to kind of be more level-headed and say, oh, well, this shouldn't have happened. And from the very get-go, because I grew up in a family that has criminals, that has addicts, I thought that the story should have been about addiction and that we shouldn't have seen this sort of sanctification of George Floyd. And because I was so attacked by A-listers, Dave Chappelle notoriously got onto a platform and denigrated me in a really despicable manner, and everybody just said, oh, this girl is so horrible. I really made it my mission to not just say the truth, but to continue to say the truth and to really unlock the answer to the question.
Have you guys seen the documentary? It's gonna be intense, right? It's gonna be crazy. People are not gonna like that, but that's gonna get it views because people are gonna go watch it just to hate it, and then they're gonna give it views, which is gonna help the algorithm show it to more people. I don't know if I should watch it. I don't know my take on this.
What happened to the $90 million that Black Lives Matter organization made on the back of the George Floyd riots? We decided to find out, and it is going to astonish people. It astonished me. It astonished the production team. It's just not where I thought this documentary was going to end. And I stand by all of my assessments, and I hope that when people walk away, they realize that it's okay to be a voice for truth, even in times of tremendous deceit.
Well, the documentary is fantastic. I've seen some of the pre-released footage. It really is going to be amazing, and it's going to blow up the world, as most of the stuff that Candace does actually. Also, you recently had a conversation with Perez Hilton and Scott Nugent, which is an interesting combo about the use of puberty blockers in kids. How did that come out? I understand how you ended up talking with Scott Nugent. Perez Hilton is a bit of a different story. So how did that happen?
Well, it really happened because Brittany Aldean, who's an entrepreneur and the wife of Jason Aldean, who's a country music star, said something that, made perfect sense, which was just that she was glad that when she was a child and went through a tomboy phase, I also went through a tomboy phase. Thank goodness it was in the 90s. Her parents didn't decide to change her gender. They just said, okay, my little girl is going through a tomboy phase. And of course, she was attacked by far lefties that are lesser known in the country music world, Maren Morris and Cassidy Pope. And Perez Hilton sort of attacked me on Twitter for defending Brittany Aldean. And, I don't want this to be theatrical. I don't want to get into a Twitter beef. If you actually believe your positions, which Perez Hilton does, and he said, oh, well, puberty blockers are reversible. I said, why don't you come on the show? Let's actually host a conversation with somebody who identifies as a trans man and has taken so much medicine that has been prescribed to help Scott's transition, and hear what he has to say. And that's exactly what Perez did. He came, and it was a great conversation. I tried to just remain mute throughout it and really be a host. And I think that both
conversation with Perez Hilton?
Parties walked away. Well,
we should see that one next.
At least Perez walked away and he learned a lot. And I would really advise any person who is sincere in their belief that the trans debate is just an opinion or it's to help your children because they're going through an identity crisis, that they really watch this discussion, because I could not stand more adamantly opposed to everything that the transgender movement is attempting to do when it comes to our children.
Well, it's Candace Owens. Go check out her brand new show on Daily Wire Plus. Candace Owens is now airing 5 times a week. So if you wanted more Candace, you can get it right now. Again, that's Candace Owens' show, titled her name. And that show is every day a week. And she's going to...
That was a good video. Very, very good work. All right. We heard about how porn is destroying the society. She spoke about her documentary, spoke about transgenderism. Is that the right word? I might be wrong. Please feel free to correct me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think on let me know your take on how pornography is destroying the society. Because even from when she started, when she said her husband said Instagram is all pornography, it's not really far from the truth. Remember when maybe I'm not really old, but like 2004, if someone was naked, that was basically pornography. Like if you're watching a movie, I don't know how it was in your house, but if you're watching a movie and a lady strips down to her brassiere and her panties, then you have to close your eyes because that was pornography. But now we see that every day on Instagram, like it's normal. So yeah, I understand what he was saying when he said that. Anyways, let me know what you think of that video. If you want us to bring more clips like that to the channel, let me know in the comment section. This is the end of this one. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Peace.